To show you how the components panel works, let's open up this components panel Fig project, and you can find that in the exercise files under chapter 2. And in this project we have three simple layers. We have a rectangle, we have an add button, and a heart button. And now we can find the components panel here right next to the layers panel. If we click down here, we can see that there aren't any components created yet, and it's telling us to create a component, select a layer, and click the Create Component button in the toolbar. So these are simple layers right now, but I can easily click on this layer and click Create Component. I can click on this heart, Create Component, and now we have two components here. And with these components, we can simply drag and drop these on other frames to reuse these components throughout other parts of the project. And the really nice thing about this is if we ever go into the master component, we can change the color, for example, to blue, and it changes everywhere throughout our project. Now, another great way to use components is inside other components. So right here we have two master components, and we can tell that they're master components by this little icon here on the top left of their name. They have four little diamonds indicating that this is the master. But now I can click on this, and if I hold down Option, I can drag this over into this navigation bar that I'm going to create to be another master component. And so I can copy this component inside of here, or I can go into the components panel and I can drag, for example, this heart, drag this inside of this nav bar here, and now we have these two components inside of this navigation bar. Now the last thing I'm going to do is click and drag a rectangle around all three of these objects, and I'll click one more time, Create Component, and now we have a nav bar component. So if I want to hold down Option, I can copy this, or again I can click in this component panel and copy this onto other frames. And before I move any further, I'm just going to delete some of these extra objects here, and I'm going to hold down Option and now copy this frame over to the right. So now we have three frames that have the same components inside of them. We very easily created these three components. And so now, within seconds, I can change the look of this nav bar by double clicking inside of here to get to this rectangle. I can decide, well, I want this nav bar to be blue now, and I actually want these to be white. So I'm going to double click inside of here, make this white, and as I'm making these changes, even as I'm selecting the color within here, you can see that this is gradually changing within all of the child components. So these are just some of the basic ways that you can create components, and they become really powerful. But you can always find these components inside of this components panel, and if you want to use these components throughout other projects, you can very easily publish these files to a library to reuse in other projects that isn't even in this components panel Figma project. Now, one thing you have to be careful of is because these are master components right here, if I delete this master component, it's going to be deleted in the components panel as well. And now I don't have that same kind of power. If I double click into this component here, I can still change the color of this heart, and it changes red everywhere else, but it's not because of this component we created before, it's because it's living inside of this component that I'm editing. So that's just a basic overview of how components works, just to show you this components panel and where you can organize your components here and reuse them throughout your project.